everyone. This is Frank with the Protection Project. We have violence coming down our way. The gangs out there who are illegal aliens from Venezuela, in Aurora, Colorado, and in Denver, and in Chicago, and other such places, are really a symptom of what's being done by our government and our complacent society. I've decided that I wanted to talk to somebody who has seen real violence. This is a former combat Marine. His name is Steve. He lives in Wyoming. We'll say that much and only that much. He has seen the real thing. The most dangerous thing I've done in my life is feeding my cat when it's in a bad mood. So I figured that getting a perspective from someone who has seen real stuff would be invaluable, and indeed, I think it is. He goes into a lot of detail about why we are at where we are at, where we've become, what, an endangered country? Okay, let's go and speak with Steve. Steve, I've decided that I wanted to get your input on what's happening with illegal alien criminal gangs in Aurora, Colorado. Of course, Denver, Colorado has its own number of illegals as well. And it's no secret that here in Wyoming, we have the Mexican drug cartels on the Indian lands and selling throughout the state. That's from years ago. That's been happening. Someone like yourself, you're a former combat Marine, you've fired shots, you've been fired at, you've seen the horror of violence. But what is your perspective on, say, for example, Aurora, Colorado? We've seen video of an apartment building where you got guys showing up with AK-47s, some with handguns, and they're terrorizing everybody. In some cases, they're breaking into some of the apartments, and people are forced to pay them rent. How would someone like yourself handle something like that, given your experience, which is different than the rest of us?
Well, me personally, I think any man that is a man cannot allow that to happen, even at the expense of injury or death. And the reason I would say that is cowardice is the main condition of the human animal in recorded history. And people start to fight when they start to feel like they have no other choice. And then if they don't have the choice to fight, those are the ones who get on the cattle cars and do what they're told. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw a little excerpt not long ago about, the truth is always the right answer. And yes and no. I don't even remember who was saying it, but I thought it was an excellent point. It's like, you always tell the truth. You always tell the truth. Well, let me ask you, if you were a man living in Holland and you had Anne Frank living in your upstairs basement and the Gestapo knocked on your door and asked about it, would you tell the truth?
Absolutely not. And let me add something. I've thought about this a lot, and I would do the same thing with Jesus. If Jesus was in my home in some room and the Roman soldiers came from him and they said, do you know where Jesus is? I would have to say, no, I don't know where he's at.
Right. Now, in the case of Jesus, he'd push you aside and say, here I am.
Yeah, that's up to him.
But, when you have the power of God, you get to do those things.
Absolutely.
Now, here's my point that I'm trying to go with, is as somebody who's a former Marine, who has been active in military service on and off through my life, going all the way back to my late teens, and has seen the ugliness of communism and the wars and the multiple problems that it brings, everything from economics, which, of course, involves your diet, it involves the quality of your water, it involves your health care, it involves your liberty to move, blah, blah, blah. There's just no aspect of your life that a tyrant doesn't want to control.
Yep.
The problem with I see the gangs that are invading the buildings in Aurora, Colorado are not a problem per se. They're a symptom of a problem. We talk about organized gangs. They're, human traffickers. They're drug traffickers. They're this, put any moniker on them you like.
Right, yeah.
They're non-existent without a larger gang supporting them, which is government.
Yes.
Now, I always come back, and you've heard me say this in the past, the blood of all governments on all time, in every case, in all recorded history, is tax money. And if you pay the taxes, no matter whether you like it or not, you are supporting the policy.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with tax boycott or tax revolt is it puts skin in the game. And cowards can't be free. Mm-hmm. Cowards want somebody else to do the risking. They want somebody else to defend their rights. They want somebody else to give them the blessings of liberty. And if somebody else gets hurt or killed, then it's a statistic they read and forget about by lunch. And they want all these things, but they don't want to have any personal risk. Now, I'm very biblically literate and very much a believer. Mm-hmm. And in both Old and New Testament, you see time and time and time again of the great sin that brings down judgment on a people or a nation, or in some cases an individual. The greatest sin is not what most of us think of as sins. It's not robbery, it's not rape, it's not murder. It's complacency. It's cowardice. And I challenge anybody listening to my voice, get out a Bible, get out any secular history, and see if I'm correct. Okay, so you have gangs in Aurora. How'd they get there? By whose policy?
It's our government's policy.
And the one thing that's very interesting about Aurora is it's largely a Democrat-controlled and Democrat-populated little nest bed in the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
Now, one of the points that I made is all the people that got threatened, anybody who's been robbed, extorted, raped, maybe murdered, if they did not fight back, they are effectively volunteering for it.
Yep.
Now, I said that word effectively. In their mind, or lack thereof, they would disagree with me and they get angry for me saying this. But this is natural history. This is the natural order of things. If you try to look like food, you will get eaten. Now, so they have these gangs coming into these apartment buildings, and I ask the question, how many shots were fired on either side?
On their side, there was something.
Thus far, not a single U.S. citizen has fired a shot.
Exactly.
This is because of two reasons. Number one, they don't have any guns. The reason they don't have any guns is they're stupid liberal Democrats. Or number two, they're cowards. So, they look like food. So the big criminal gang, being, the Democrats and the rhinos, they not only do not stop this invasion, but they're actually facilitating it. We all know that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are actually bringing in large, airplane loads of illegal aliens and placing them in various cities all over the United States for the specific purpose of destroying the United States so that we can be taken over by an international government controlled by the Communist Chinese largely.
Yes.
And Joe Biden is a member of the Communist Chinese Party. A lot of people, that's not true. Look it up. Do some research. Okay? So this is how communism works. Now, I have heard so many times it turns my stomach that when it gets to, fill in the blank, I'm going to get my gun and I'm going to fight. Here's the question I would ask anybody that says that. When you're fighting your government, are you going to keep paying them the taxes? So, time out. It's April 15th. I got to fill out my income tax. I'll be right back. Is that going to happen? And if the answer to that is no, then why is it happening now? Mm-hmm. If you want to rein in your government, quit paying them. But do it on an organized level. That's dangerous. Yes, it is. Do you think it's more dangerous than a Colombian drug runner with an AK-47 shooting through your door? Because that is what's coming. As a matter of fact, we could say that is what's here. In this case, it's Venezuelan. But they have them from Honduras, Venezuela, Mexico, Middle East. We have many, many, many radical Muslims that are being brought in by the Democrats and by the rhinos with, cells all over the United States and a lot of communist Chinese who are just waiting for the gold order. Mm-hmm. This is not some theory. This is proven.
It's fact.
This is an absolute fact. And we're not talking a couple thousand of them. We're talking somewhere on the order of 2.5 to 3 million of them. We're talking on order of a number larger than all the U.S. ground forces from the Army and the Marine Corps combined. And they're just waiting for somebody to tell them to go. When that happens, somebody is going to tell our government and our cops to not resist, and that will be your Senate, your Congress, and the cowardly cops who think that I've got to go along to get along because I've got to get a paycheck. They're going to do whatever they're told to do, and they are not going to do their job when they are told not to do it. Now, have we seen this in Aurora? We have armed robbery going on video cameras. What are the cops doing?
Nothing.
You could answer that real easy. Nothing. Because they were told not to. See, the type of person that is now hired for law enforcement, and this has been going on for about the last 20 years, they go through a psych eval, and it's all supposedly so we get people that have good, solid, mental faculties who aren't just going to crumble under pressure. That's the for public consumption reason given to us. But that's not how the psych eval works. The reason the psych eval is done the way it is, and the way that they are psychoanalyzing these candidates to be cops, is they want somebody who will obey orders no matter how egregiously wrong they are. Mm-hmm. What they want is Gestapo. They want red commissars. They want the same kind of people as the Praetorian Guard. They want somebody who will do what the politician tells them to do, even if it endangers their own children, saying, it'll get better tomorrow. It'll get better next year. It'll get better in 4 years. It'll get better after I retire. And how many military officers have you seen, and how many retired police officers have you seen who are now on talk shows going on and on and on and on about how they are insiders and they know exactly what's going on and they know how bad it is, but they didn't say a word until they could get their money. The Church of Laodicea.
Well, look, that being understood, I know where you've gone with this thing, but okay, so you're a citizen there in Aurora, Colorado. You live in that apartment building. What steps would you take to address the situation of violence and extortion from these people?
Well, for one thing, it's kind of difficult for me to put myself in that situation because this is like telling somebody who's totally heterosexual, has a happy marriage with a beautiful wife and 3 young kids, I want you to put yourself in the position that you're a transaxis homosexual. See, my mind won't even go there. Mm-hmm. But if I was in Aurora, Colorado, let's say I was going through on business, mm-hmm. and these guys started ransacking the place, my first instinct is to start shooting them. Now, once you kill several of them, I guarantee you're going to have national coverage. Yes. Especially if you're good at it. Mm-hmm. And, of course, what the media will say is we've had a mass shooting and it's some conservative who opened fire and killed all these brown people. They were just poor brown people. But the thing is, if you do it on a large enough scale, that lie won't last. Now, that's one man taking a stand, probably sacrificing his life. What if you had 3?
So much better.
6.
Yep.
Yeah. And the reason we don't have 3 and we don't have 6 is the reason that I started this conversation with cowardice. Nobody wants to put skin in the game, and they want somebody else to do it. Mm-hmm. Well, I was that somebody else. I am a former military man. As you said, I know what this is like, and I don't want to see it here. But the thing is, it is here. I am 100% certain that the citizens living in the Polish border in 1939 did not want to see World War II start. You don't get to vote. When you're attacked, we didn't want to see the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor. Guess what? What you want doesn't count. What you're going to do is you're either going to deal with reality now, or you're going to deal with reality later. But you're going to deal with reality. Every single person within the sound of my voice is going to deal with reality. You're either going to do it where you have control, to some extent, or you're going to do it where you have no control, to 100%. Those are your 2 choices, and there's not a third one. So until somebody starts to grow a spine or grow a set of testicles, this is as predictable as gravity. We're making national news. We're talking about it and stuff. Oh, God, they're invading apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. Well, guess what? They've been doing this in various things, maybe not apartment buildings, but houses in neighborhoods all over the United States for 30 years. The difference between this and that is this one got caught on video and somehow got a little bit of coverage on mass media, which is rare. But the fact of the matter is, if you go to some of the ghettos all over this country who are being controlled and have been being controlled by gangs for 30 to 40 years, and they're not getting coverage, how many black gangs control how many square miles of the city of Chicago, which has the highest, I believe, the highest murder rate in the United States? And those black gangs have been committing these crimes, and far worse, because to the best of my knowledge, these Venezuelans in Aurora have not yet killed anybody that we know of.
Right.
But in Chicago, what are we up to? Like 22 a night? Okay,
yeah, that's happening all the time, and I know where you're
every single day, 24 hours, every 24 hours, and it's not covered. So, like I say, reality's coming. I feel like Noah trying to tell people the flood is coming and being laughed at, but I think Noah had the last laugh.
Well,
so this is where we're going. No, I said that wrong. This is where we are. This is not only where we are, but it's where we have been for years. And a lot of people will blame it on Kamala Harris and Biden, and they are certainly to blame for the last 3.5 years. But this has been going on for 30 or 40 years. And the reason it's going on is there's no financial or physical incentive to stop doing it. The financial incentive is being given because it is funded by tax money. You know, these guys that are being flown in on luxury jets from all over, Central and South America to various American cities, who's paying those pilots? And what are they being paid with? Well, that would be taxes. Where'd the airplane gas come from? Well, that would be taxes. Where'd the airplane come from? That would be taxes. The cell phones that they give the illegals, the invaders, that would be taxes. And where do they get the money to buy the guns and to buy the ammunition that they're now threatening U.S. citizens with? Well, it came from the U.S. citizens. The U.S. population, and I'm so disgusted by this because as a former military man who put my life on the line, and now I'm questioning, was there anybody in this country that was worth that risk? Now the U.S. citizens are the chickens voting for Colonel Sanders.
I like
it would be one thing if the chickens were stupid to the point they didn't know there was a Colonel Sanders, and they didn't know there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant. But they all know. They know it, and they still do it, which means at this point, see, somebody who's deceived does not know they're deceived. In the Bible, it says, those who sin in ignorance are beaten with few stripes, but those who sin in knowledge are beaten with many stripes. Everybody knows. Now, there are some dedicated liars who they take lying to an art form, who will try to convince themselves, and therefore anybody they can get to listen to, that this really isn't a problem, or conservatives are just trying to whip this up. I guarantee you, conservative belief did not bring Venezuelan gangs with semi-automatic weapons into an apartment building in Aurora. That was done by communists. And I'm really kind of sick and tired of the words progressive and liberal and even Democrat.
They are communists.
The Chinese have a saying that I'm firmly a believer in, that truth and that the wisdom in the country increases when all things are called by their correct names. They're not Democrats, they're communists. And the whole idea is to destroy this country, rot it out from the inside so that an outside government can come in as the savior and take over.
Agreed.
And the Democrat Party has known this for well over 100 years. They've been communists since their inception. They are communists now. They will be communists tomorrow. the best, to quote Friedrich Engels, the best communist is one who doesn't know what a communist is. Your rank and file Democrats, those listening to my voice right now, they probably don't even know they're communists. But get a copy of the Communist Manifesto. Just look at the 10 planks. It's small enough to put on a business card. We're not talking about deep reading, which is good because the average person listening to my voice out there probably can't get to a newspaper article. But read the Communist Manifesto and tell me what part isn't in being enforced as law in the United States today. Tell me which one.
Yeah, I see. And Steve, I am running out of time, but as I see it, and from what you're saying, the best bet that people have is to take care of the problem themselves, that they have to get
That's right. And keep in
friends.
mind who the enemy is.
Right.
The enemy is not primarily the invaders. They're the symptom of the enemy. When you do this, if you do this, the enemy is going to be your government, the cops, the prosecutors, so on and so forth. And you don't win a fight on the defense, ever. There's not been a war in the history of mankind that was ever won defensively. You are going to be attacked by your government, and the gang members are simply their foot soldiers.
Yeah, I get that.
If we'd had an ability in World War II to have a commando unit go in and kill, 400 Germans or Austrians of your choice, and they took out the top 400 Nazis in the entire Nazi regime, World War II would have ended in about a week. But there's a million men hacking away at the leaves of every evil tree for every man smart enough to put the axe to the root. The root is your own government. They are now your enemy. You are in the way of their desire for world conquest and world economics. You are now not valuable to them.
I very much agree. And Steve, I've reached the end of my allotted time. Give me a few closing words, if you would, then we'll have to say goodbye.
Well, I would say this: 0.5% of the people think. About 2.5% of the people think they think. And 97% of the people would rather die than think. They're going to get their wish.
All right, Steve, thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening. And again, my name is Frank George. I want you to vote. It's very important. And at the same time, I want to tell you, we're not going to get out of our situation that we have right now by voting, but it is important. It's been a long-held belief of mine that our country has gone down the wrong road for too long. We've had the wrong people controlling government, controlling us, and currently their endeavor is to destroy our nation, destroy our culture, destroy what was America, and bring it back as something that you would not want to live in. Thank you. May God bless. Get ready, because it's going to happen.